What I would like to talk about today is the subject of building your self-esteem, which comes right out of my book, Unlock Your Possibilities. The book itself deals with very important aspects of personal achievement and professional development. It talks about belief and the limiting beliefs that hold you back from reaching your goals. It also provides practical strategies you can use to overcome beliefs that limit you. Setting and achieving goals as well as skills and knowledge acquisition are topics that have been given serious consideration in the book as well. In subsequent chapters, the book delves into topics like developing a winning attitude, fear and how such emotion can be managed in the pursuit of your dreams. Unlock Your Possibilities has dedicated an entire chapter on persuasion, how you can convince others that it's in their best interest to work with you and to be with you in pursuing their very own dreams. And of course, what is a book about motivation without a chapter about the all-important subject of adversity and how to cope with it? I have given this topic serious attention as well. However, of the topics in the book, there's one that I have yet to mention, and that's because self-esteem is perhaps the most important, yet least explored and understood topic in personal achievement and professional development. To many, self-esteem deals with the individual and the internal resources the individual needs to activate in order to effectively interact with the world around them. Most succinctly, though, self-esteem is about the experiences from within, the subjective beliefs we hold within our subconscious mind. Self-esteem is about how we judge ourselves, positively or negatively, how we sometimes minimize or maximize our achievements, the idea of respecting others and ourselves and demanding reciprocal treatment. In sum, this chapter delves deeper into the definition of self-esteem, discusses low and high self-esteem, and explores areas where such emotions emanate. In the end, I offer strategies as to how to develop self-esteem, one which will enable you to live a more fulfilling life. In plain but very effective terms, self-esteem is our relationship with ourselves. It is about the repeated suggestions we feed our minds, particularly the subconscious. And such suggestions come in the form of messages. The messages may be about our determination to overcome a current affliction or simply to show responsibility in certain areas of our lives, such as getting up and making serious effort to get a job. But most importantly, and this is what I want you to remember, that self-esteem is about affirming at the core that you are an individual worthy of living and being in the community that you reside. And as Nathaniel Brandon, the father of self-esteem, puts it in his 6 pillars of self-esteem, that you are somebody with the disposition to experience oneself as competent to cope with the basic challenges of life and as worthy of happiness. The idea is, in order to make it through the daily struggles we each face, we need to have unconditional self-love, respect for ourselves, and a keen awareness about the things that are happening around us. We must also be assertive in our daily interactions with others. We cannot let the world roll by without participating. Remember, you have only one life to live. Try to live it on your own terms. However, do so with others in mind. Now, understand that negative beliefs and thoughts, which I talked about in chapter 1, do nothing but lower your self-esteem. Negative or limiting beliefs adversely affect the relationship you have with yourself. In the end, success with your goals and aspirations become greatly affected. Reject negative thoughts. They should have no place in your mind. Remember to accept and love yourself just the way you are. Do not let anyone convince you otherwise. Please go back and read the chapter on the power of the mind, thought, and belief, and review the strategies that I offer there on how to manage limiting beliefs that reside in your mind. The principles in that section of the book offer similar approaches on how to deal with negative thoughts embedded in your mind. Now, let's define low and high self-esteem. Low self-esteem is a lack of confidence and acceptance of who you are and what you're capable of doing. In other words, when you have low self-esteem, you lack the ability to think and to make decisions that will help you cope with the daily challenges of life. People with low self-esteem are often tentative and unsure of themselves. They doubt themselves, which in and of itself is a limiting belief. Remember this, that individuals with low self-esteem also carry a feeling of incompetence and inadequacy. When you frequently judge yourself harshly and think negatively about most things in your life, then that's a sign of low self-esteem. There is an absence of love in individuals with low self-esteem. At least so do people with low self-esteem think and feel about themselves. But why? Why be so hard on yourself? Why worry about what people think? I recall in one of my books, and I think I talked about, how I felt the way people think, that really what others think about me is really their opinion. It's their problem. What truly matters is what I think about me. What should really matter is what you think about you. Because in the end, that's what will propel you at the core, at the subconscious level, to do the things that will bring about happiness to you. But again, what people think about you is their business and not yours. Plus, you can't control them from doing so anyway. So why feel so insecure? That's the issue. You cannot feel insecure because of what people think about you. Now let's see what Nathaniel Branden has to say about people with low self-esteem. Branden describes people with low self-esteem as individuals who exhibit over-compliance, defensive, and over-controlling behaviors. For example, an employee who consistently goes over and above his duty in assignments to please his boss might have a low self-esteem. He does not understand that his boss will be fine with him completing the task and nothing else. But now, let's really see where this whole idea of rejecting yourself or feeling low about yourself and feeling unsure about you, where that came from. Let's explore that for a second. The question that keeps rising to the surface is, where does the idea of judging ourselves poorly come from? Where does the idea of minimizing our achievements come from? Why would you think negatively about yourself and about others? I recall complimenting a friend who graduated from law school in New York. And this is what I told the guy. "Great job, Jacob," I said. His response was, "It's only a law degree. It's not a big deal." Now, At this point, at this level of academic achievement, one would think that this guy deserves at least a little bit of bragging right. Well, from his response, you can draw your own conclusions about how successful his law firm, his law practice would be. He did not seem to feel worthy of the achievement at all. Now, let's dig a little bit deeper into the sources of low self-esteem. One is growing up in a household that's devoid of love and supportive parents. But back to the question, where does low self-esteem come from? Low self-esteem can come from many sources, most notably from growing up in a tough environment where there is absence of love, happiness, and some predictable order in the household. Where this is the case, a child is likely to experience low self-esteem. For some of us, this may resonate. My wife and I also know of environments where dads were absent, moms were away most of the time, and sometimes there was a meal in the house and sometimes there was none. And the children were left to fend for themselves. There were also those times when children received harsh punishments for no good cause, no good reason. So where predictable, loving, and supportive parents are absent in a household, children's self-esteem would suffer. Children will lose perspective. For many, they lose the enthusiasm for education. They would not be, and again, it would not be long enough for their grades to plummet. Truancy begins to creep in as well when self-esteem is thwarted in children. And defiance and misbehavior and trouble with law enforcement would usually follow as well. Now, shaming or criticizing children can impede their ability to cope with the daily challenges of growing up. Language such as, you're dumb, you're not going to amount to anything, and you're not smart. It makes it difficult for children to build the confidence they need to resist bullying. And when parents and significant people in a child's life are overly critical, the child loses the confidence they need to perform well in school as well. On the contrary, I grew up in an environment where everyone was pretty much illiterate. No one had formal education in the household at all. However, this is what I remember. This is what I can recall. I recall times when my uncle, who can read a word of English, would ask me each night how I was doing in school and whether or not I had done my homework. And you know what? That was all I needed to hear from a caring family member. Now, stressful life events is another one that can really cause one to have a low self-esteem. Because when, let's say, parents divorce, or someone in the household loses a job, especially the breadwinner, and for the children, sometimes moving to a new school district or neighborhood. When these events take place, they tend to affect the child at the core. Divorce in a marriage is not a good experience for those involved. However, where divorce becomes the only option, adults should make every effort to consider the mental and emotional status of all those that are likely to be affected. Now, let's talk about the thoughts that we harbor. That's another one. Having negative thoughts in your mind. If there's one suggestion that I can offer you in the journey to living a bountiful life, it is the idea of not harboring negative thoughts about your ability to accomplish worthwhile goals or to participate in healthy relationships in your community. Negative thoughts are destructive. Negative thoughts about you or anyone else can inhibit you from seeing the possibilities that lie in front of you. Therefore, give no residence to such thoughts in your subconscious mind. The topic of self-esteem is very important to anyone's success. And irrespective of who you are, there can be times when your self-esteem is bruised, and the need to reaffirm it cannot be overemphasized. For that and many other reasons, I will do another episode, part 2, to share with you that one principle, that one ingredient that you would need to master in order to build your self-esteem. So stay tuned for part 2.